Republicans view college campuses as far friendlier to liberals than conservatives when it comes to free speech. And that's according to a new poll that was put out by the Associated Press and NORC and the University of Chicago. So what are the results of this poll? Well, overall, 47% of adults say that liberals have a lot of freedom to express their views on college campuses, while just 20% said the same of conservatives. Republicans do in fact see a clear double standard on college campuses. And to be quite frank with you all, I also see that double standard, and I think it's a big problem. I'll get to my personal thoughts in just a moment, but first, a few more details from the poll. Just 9% said conservatives can speak their minds, while 58% said liberals have that freedom, according to the polling. They were also slightly less likely, meaning conservatives were less likely than Americans overall, to see campuses as respectful and inclusive places for conservatives. In fact, Rhonda Baker, who voted for former President Donald Trump and has a son in college, said the following: if you're a Republican or lean Republican, you're unabashedly wrong, they shut you down. If they hold a rally, it's the MAGA's coming through, it's the KKK is coming through. And look, I think Rhonda's right, and I think equating everyone who supports Trump as a member of the KKK really disempowers that word or that reference, I should say. For example, when you have genuine white nationalists espousing the kind of hate and bigotry that you should expect from them, they kind of get lost in the mix when you accuse any random Republican voter of automatically being like a KKK member. But nonetheless, I am curious what you think about the results of this survey, because clearly they didn't just survey Republicans. They had a nationally representative sample. This is a professional outfit that puts out polling all the time. And I think that I think the results are pretty accurate.
Yeah, so I have a really interesting perspective here because I was a liberal Republican. That was a thing that existed when I went to college. So that was a long time ago. And this kind of censorship existed back then as well. It goes in waves, right? It was really bad back then, then it got better, and now it's back to being pretty bad. So is it true that conservatives feel less welcome on college campuses? Definitely. Guys, you can't, pretending that that's not the case is absurd, right? So now part of the reason is because the young are very, very progressive. So, and why are the young very progressive? Because they have access to better information, and they don't want to discriminate against gay people, black people, etc. It makes sense, right? But as progressives, it is also our core value to be open-minded. And you're not going to change anyone's minds by shouting them down and by not allowing them to speak and by assuming that they're the KKK, okay? So for example, when I was on a college campus and we bothered to have conversations, and I was in the Penn Political Union, and there was a million other ways that a normal person would have conversations with other folks, right? And I would talk to my Democratic friends, etc. And when you had a conversation, they'd be like, oh, I see, you're just trying to help, but from a different angle, right? But keep in mind, I was a liberal Republican, right? So that's kind of weird at this point. Conservative economically, but progressive on social issues, etc. But public setting, when I went to go speak at a harassment debate and in a couple other places, no, they don't care. They would just shout you down. Yeah. And so shouting people down is kind of an admission that you're wrong. I got news for you, sorry. So that's it, and I don't want to admit that as a progressive. Why would I admit that to the right wingers? I would let them talk, and then I would make better points. Why do I need to shout them down? So look, there are extremes. We'll get to that in a second. And yeah, there are some places where you can say, no, I'm drawing the line on a Nazi, right? But not everybody's a Nazi. Not everybody's the Klan, guys. So there's little grandmothers. Yes, they have some old ways of thinking, and yes, maybe some of that you say is sexist, bigoted, whatever it is, right? But she doesn't mean to harm you. She's just been deluded into think Trump's gonna help, right?
Yeah.
So you have to find your balance in how you address folks. If you're always at an 11 out of 10, that's not the right approach.
By the way, also that Trump supporter might cite specific reasons why she or he supports Trump. And I think it's important to understand in good faith what those you disagree with believe and why they believe it. Like, what is the motivating factor? What drives them? I think it's more important to understand your fellow Americans rather than shut down conversation and kind of silo yourself off with people you agree with all the time. And look, let me just say from personal experience, to be honest with you, when you're constantly existing in this bubble where your ideas are never challenged, you're preaching to the choir, you exist in this echo chamber, everyone agrees with you, it gets real boring, and your ability to even defend what you believe gets weakened. Because if your ideas are not challenged, then you're never forced to defend those ideas. You're never forced to reflect on those ideas. And some of those ideas might have some flaws. So I actually think it's better and especially important on a college campus to be exposed to ideas and perspectives that you are unfamiliar with and that might even challenge your own, deeply held beliefs.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've had my mind changed a number of times, even since we started the show. I remember I debated Mario Cuomo on one of my old conservative principles, which is the death penalty, for like an hour. The former governor of New York, he was kind of gracious enough to come on the show. And I didn't back down at all, but then what happened? Later, many years later, yeah, we've been around 21 years, oldest show in internet history. The Innocence Project started and showed that we had dozens of people on death row that were innocent. Well, I don't want to execute innocent people. That's crazy, right? So, but if I had said la 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 and I had closed my ears and never listened to anything else, I'd still be in favor of doing that atrocious thing that I don't want to do, right? And so it could come from the right, it can come from the left. We've got to be open-minded, and that's strong. It's weak to say, I don't want to hear you.
Yeah, that's another thing. I mean, if you want to give the perception of weakness, then shut down conversation that challenges your beliefs. But if you are strong, you're willing to be challenged and you're willing to defend your positions because you've actually gone through the work to question and reflect whether those positions make sense. I gotta give you some more details about the polling though. So according to this poll, about 4 in 10 Democrats say liberals can speak their minds freely on campuses. So even among Democrats, they feel that to some extent liberals are even censored, right? While about 3 in 10 Democrats say conservatives can do so. So that's quite an admission. They clearly have acknowledged that conservatives have a tougher time speaking freely on college campuses. And look, at the end of the day, the people who lose the most are the very students who are digging themselves into a massive hole with student loan debt and not getting the quality education they deserve. That quality education requires their perspectives to be challenged, in my opinion. That is how we grow, that is how we learn. Now, I also want to provide some specific examples of various conservative speakers in recent years getting shouted down. One example was when students had shut down a conservative judge who was invited to speak at Stanford this year. More recently, a conservative Princeton University professor was drowned out while discussing free speech at Washington College, a school in Maryland. I mean, not allowing that person to speak is insane. I just think it's insane. Like if you can't, this is what I would say. If you're not interested in an exchange of ideas on a college campus, then don't go to college. Or more importantly, if you can't handle it, if you're one of those people who subscribes to the notion that words are violence, that words make you unsafe, then just don't listen to those words, like sit it out, go do something else. Or just don't go to college because you're not genuinely interested in learning and growing.
Yeah, so some of our members have written, and Velvet Goldmine on Twitch says something very similar, but I'm gonna go to IamSock on TYT.com. He said, conservative college students can have all of the ideas they want, but other students are not forced to like or associate with them. Tough cookies.
No, I agree, but no.
The reason I read that is because I wanna be clear. That's absolutely right. And so, and I often say, you have the right to speak, you don't have the right to be popular, right? Because a lot of times the right wing complains, we're not popular on college campuses. Well, that's kind of that's a you problem, not an us problem.
But the point is you have the right to speak. Let's not belabor it, okay?
Yeah,
there is a difference. Conservatives get shut down, okay? They shout over them, they don't let them even address like the topic that they were invited to speak on. That is wrong. Okay, I'm not saying that, they have to be accepted and loved by everyone on campus. Of course not. That is what debate entails, right? An exchange.
Yeah.
But the exchanges aren't even allowed to happen. That's the problem.
Yeah, so I just want to make that distinction. are you allowed to disagree? Of course you should disagree with them. You should match their speech with your speech, no question about it, right? But like here, I'll give you one last example from my old days. So I went to go hear a member of the Contras speak. He was one of the top generals of the Contras. Now, even as a liberal Republican back then, I did not like the Contras. The Contras were a disaster, okay? But I was curious, what is this guy gonna say that's gonna defend the Contras? Like, how does he justify it to himself? It was an intellectual curiosity, but I never got to hear him speak because they booed him off the stage. He doesn't have the right to be popular on a college campus, but let the guy speak so we can rip apart his argument, right? So we can prove to people that we are right and they are wrong. And so the numbers we're giving you show you the sense that everyone has on a college campus. And it's pretty clear, and we gotta be honest with ourselves and with our own side. They feel like they can't even say anything. Now, on the other hand, one last thing on the other hand, the right-wingers, you wanna make interesting points about how we could all do better as a society, as a country, et cetera. Great, how many times can we say, please make your point, right? We're very clear about that and we're very fair about that. At the same time, for the young guys who are like, oh yeah, I can say whatever I want. I'm gonna say things that are super offensive and I'm gonna say the N-word and I'm gonna say this, and that women belong there and not here, et cetera. Well, brother, don't pretend that people aren't gonna be offended. You're trying to offend them, right?
Yeah.
So that's not a very productive way to speak. And so if you wanna draw the line, for example, at Nick Fuentes, I agree, the guy's a Nazi, right? We're not gonna learn anything from that. Yes, we do have to use judgment, and yes, there needs to be a balance.
Hey, thanks for watching that video. We really appreciate it, guys. And we appreciate it if you become members because that allows us to be independent, honest, progressive, all the things that you don't get from corporate media. And all of that is because of you guys. Hit the join button below and become one of us, become a Young Turk.